Hello everyone, in this video I will explain to you about part of speech. Part of speech is a part of English grammar in the form of a classification of words which are divided into several categories based on their role and function in the structure of a sentence. Before we get into the types, look at this statement first. When you want to become a proficient in a field, generally someone needs to learn from the most basic things first, step by step. For example, if you want to hold a senior position in the office, you definitely have to go through your junior years first, right? Likewise, when learning language, especially English, the reason is a word or phrase can have various meanings. There are even words that cannot be interpreted literally. Some of the benefits of studying this are: know each vocabulary category in English, understand how to place words in the right sentence structure, understand the two main sentence patterns in English, and gets to determine the appropriate punctuation. So, in order to be able to speak English well and correctly, both oral and written, first understand the basics through parts of speech material. Let's check it out. What are the 8 parts of speech? Actually, most people know that there are only 8 types of parts of speech in English, such as verb, noun, adjective, pronoun, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. But if you ask, is determiner a part of speech? The answer is yes. This determiner is usually accompanied by an article. Nouns are words that represent people, places, things, or ideas. They can be categorized into various types based on their characteristics and functions. Here are some common types of nouns along with examples. These refer to general categories of people, places, things, or ideas. They are not capitalized unless they begin a sentence. For example, cat, city, book, and tree. These refer to specific individuals, places, or things, and are always capitalized. For example, John, Paris, Eiffel Tower. These represent tangible, physical objects that can be seen, touched, smelled, tasted, or heard. For example, car, apple, beach, music. These refer to intangible concepts, qualities, feelings, or ideas that cannot be perceived through the sense. For example, love, courage, happiness, knowledge. These can be counted as individual units and have both singular and plural forms. For example, apple as singular and apples as plural, book as singular and books as plural. These represent substances, concepts, or ideas that cannot be counted. For example, water, sugar, happiness. These refer to groups of people, animals, or things as a single unit. For example, team, family, audience. These are formed by combining two or more words to create a new noun. For example, tooth, brush, basketball, raincoat. These indicate ownership or possession of something. For example, John's car, Kate's tail, company's logo. These are nouns formed from verbs by adding ing and can function as subjects or objects. For example, swimming, reading, cooking. These are groups of words centered around a gerund and its modifiers or complements. For example, swimming in the ocean is my favorite activity. These are nouns used to address someone directly, often set off by a comma or commas. For example, could you pass the salt, John? A pronoun is a word that is used to replace a noun in a sentence. Pronouns are often used to avoid repetition and to make sentences flow more smoothly. Here are some examples of pronouns. It is as the subject of a sentence. For example, I, you, we, they, he, she, it. It is as the object of a verb or preposition. For example, me, you, him, her, it, us, them. It shows ownership or possession. For example, mine, yours, his, hers, its, ours, theirs. Emphasize that the action of the verb is performed by the same person or thing that is the subject of the sentence. For example, myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. It points out specific people, places, or things, such as this, that, these, those. It used to ask questions. Who, whom, what, which, whose. It introduces relative clauses and connect them to the main clause. For example, who, whom, whose, which, and that. It refers to non-specific people or things. For example, someone, everybody, anything, nobody, all, some, none, many. It indicates an action that is reciprocated between two or more people. For example, each other or one another. These are often considered a type of pronoun and are used before nouns to indicate possession. My, your, his, her, its, our, their. An adjective is a word to explain, describe, or limit pronouns or nouns that are still general. This adjective is usually placed after the noun. In essence, with adjectives, a noun can be more specific. There are 7 types of adjective in English. Absolute adjective is an adjective that has no comparison or is already a description of the highest. Examples include dead, alive, starving, extinct. Attributive adjectives are adjectives that are usually placed before a noun and function to describe or change the situation of a noun in more detail without a linking verb. For example, fat, slim, handmade. Meanwhile, predicative adjectives are the opposite. They usually do not appear before nouns but appear after linking verbs. For example, be, become, grow, look. Appositive adjectives are a series of adjectives that usually accompany nouns and are preceded by a comma. In a sentence, for example, Lisa is a tall girl, slim, strong, and short-haired. These appositive adjectives appear in the form of pairs of adjectives from the example above, namely tall, slim, strong, and short. Comparative adjectives are a form of adjectives that function to compare things, better or worse, more or less, also bigger or smaller. For example, easier, sharper, harmless. Meanwhile, superlatives are comparisons that have a form or degree of adjective that shows the most or least, best or worst of something. For example, biggest, shortest, least. Compound adjectives are 2 or more adjectives that describe a condition of a noun. Examples include well-known, slowly. Denominal adjectives are forms of nouns that usually have a suffix to make them adjectives. For example, the noun hope with the suffix less becomes hopeless. Another example is jobless, clueless. Participle adjectives are adjectives in English that come from verbs with the suffix ing, ing, ed, or in, un. However, it is still an adjective, not a noun. For example, lying. A verb is a word that have functions to explain an action or situation directly or indirectly, visible or invisible. The types of verbs in English are very diverse, namely, action verbs are verbs in the form of action that can be seen by other people. Action verbs are also known as dynamic verbs. For example, swim, run, sing, work. Action verbs often appear in verbal sentences. Stative verbs are verbs that refer to a condition or situation. Stative verbs are used to describe things like your likes and dislikes, qualities, opinions, beliefs, and emotions. For example, love, want, know, dislike, needs, and so on. Transitive verb is a verb that functions to describe a direct object done by the subject. For example, kick, buy, bake, or paint. Intransitive verbs that do not explain the direct object of what the subject does. Therefore, this verb is not followed by a noun that acts as an object, such as lives, sounds. Linking verb is a verb to connect the subject and description. For example, be, become, seem, appear, grow. Helping verb have another name like auxiliary verbs. So, as the name suggests, this helping verb means an auxiliary verb that is added to another verb to change the meaning of a different sentence according to the purpose and atmosphere. Examples are be, such as is, am, are, was, were, been, being, and others. Modal verbs are very closely related to future tenses, especially the simple future tense. Actually, modal verbs are derivatives of auxiliary verbs. However, modal verbs function to show ability, possibility, or need in a sentence. For example, can, will, may, shall, have to. Regular verbs are regular verbs in the past tense. These verbs are identical with the addition of ed and d at the end of the word. For example, jumped, cried, walked, borrowed. This is the opposite of regular, or we call it as an irregular verb. This verb usually has different forms of verb 1, verb 2, and verb 3. For example, eat in the verb 1 becomes ate in the verb 2 and eaten in the verb 3. Phrasal is a verb that can be used in the form of a combination of two or more words to become a meaningful phrase. This verb is also familiar with idiom pronunciation. For example, run out, kick off, infinitive, and gerund. The infinitive is a verb whose role is to explain a noun or adjective. The formula for the infinitive is to plus verb 1. For example, to listen, to read. Do you still remember the formula for the present continuous tense? This tense uses a gerund as a verb in its formula. A gerund is a verb 1 that ends in ing. For example, cooking, cook as the verb 1 and the gerund use ing at the end of the verb. Causative verb is a verb that is used to show that the subject is not directly responsible for the action that occurred. For example, get, have, lead, make. An adverb is a word to explain or provide additional information about adjectives, verbs, sentences, or the adverb itself. But adverbs never describe a noun. The types of adverbs in English are: adverbs of time are descriptions of time. For example, yesterday, this morning, this afternoon, daily, recently, tonight, early. Adverb of manner is an adverb to show how an action or something happens. For example, happily, hardly, slowly, softly, quickly. Adverb of degree. This adverb is usually used to express the intensity of something, or these adverbs can help us to express how much or to what extent something happened. Examples of adverbs of degree are enough, quite, so, to, very. The adverb of modality is an adverb that can be used when you want to show the level of confidence or hope. Examples such as likely, maybe, perhaps, possibly, unlikely. Adverb of frequency is an adverb to express how often something happens. So, the adverbs of frequency include always, barely, daily, often, sometimes, usually or normally, and never. An adverb of place is an adverb that shows where an action or something occurs. Examples include away, behind, here, nearby, somewhere. The adverb of focus is an adverb to focus attention on a part of a sentence. Examples include also, even, just, mainly, only. A preposition is a front word that functions to show the spatial or temporal relationship between one object and another. Prepositions function to connect nouns with pronouns to form phrases that modify other words. Prepositions are divided into 6 types. There are a preposition of time, which is a preposition used to express time. In this case, time has a broad scope. It could be days, hours, seasons, and so on. Examples are after, before, during, since, until. Preposition of place is a preposition to express a place. For example, above, at, in, on, under. The preposition of movement is a preposition used to indicate movement from one place to another. Examples include inside, into, off, toward, up. Preposition of manner, which is a preposition to show the relationship manner between the object and other words in a sentence. For example, by, in, like, on, with. Preposition of purpose is a preposition to express the purpose relationship between an object and other words in a sentence. The most frequently used example is for. The preposition of quantity is a preposition that functions to introduce information in the form of a quantity or size relationship between an object and other words in the sentence. For example, like for and by. Conjunctions are words used to unite equivalent language units, connecting words with words, phrases with phrases, clauses with clauses, sentences with sentences, and so on. In simple terms, a conjunction is responsible for connecting the main sentence with the subordinate sentence. Conjunctions are divided into several types. Conjunction based on function. A subordinate conjunction is a conjunction to combine two dependent clauses that cannot stand alone, meaning they must be combined with another clause to produce meaning. Examples are since, although, after, additionally, besides. This type of conjunction is also usually called as conjunctive adverb or an adverb that acts as a conjunction. A coordinating conjunction is a word to connect two sentences that have grammatically equivalent positions. Examples of coordinate conjunctions are for and nor, but, or, yet, so. Conjunctions based on form. A correlative conjunction is a conjunction that consists of two words, but they must be separated in the sentence. Examples include not only blah blah blah, but also either blah 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 or neither blah 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 nor. Single word is a conjunction that consists of one word. For example, but and also. Compound conjunctions are hybrids that consist of more than one word but are not separate like correlative conjunctions. Examples include as if, as long as, provided that, in order that. Articles in parts of speech function to show the clarity of an object. The articles themselves are divided into two, namely definite and indefinite. Examples of definites are the and the. What's the difference? The writing is the same, the, but the way to read it is different. One follows noun that start with a vowel, the other follows nouns that start with a consonant. So the difference is the apple and the car. So examples of indefinites are a and an. Meanwhile, determiners are words placed in front of a noun to clarify a noun itself. Examples are these, that, those, enough, much, few, which, what. Interjection is a word to express someone's emotions towards a situation or action. Examples include wow, hey, oops. That's all about part of speech. Let me know what you think and type it in the comment section. See you in the next project.